Good day, sir. This is Jeanette Gilia from Section C. So, to start, Negros Oriental State University, Capital Area, Cagawasan Avenue, Dumaguete City, 6200 Negros Oriental, Philippines, College of Criminal Justice Education, Bachelor of Science in Criminology, Subject Philippine Environmental Laws. Presented to Attorney Jim Peterick G. Season, Registered Criminologist, Doctor of Jurisprudence, Master of Criminal Justice. Presented by Kiliao Jeanette Y. Rodriguez Mark Anthony T. Solarda Shan S. Salas Ayman D. Serino Nicole Erica B. Talyun Edel J. G. So, environmental law is a complex mix of federal, state, and local laws, regulations, policies choices, science, and health concerns. In addition, it is a dynamic area of the law with changes occurring rapidly. Researching environmental law requires awareness that this area of the law is more than just a collection of laws and regulation and is, in fact, a constantly changing legal system. What is environmental laws? A complex and interlocking body of statutes, common law, treaties, conventions, regulations, and policies operate to regulate the interaction of humanity and the rest of the biophysical or natural environment, and purpose of reducing or minimizing the impacts of human activity both on the natural environment for its own sake and on humanity itself. So Philippine environmental laws are simply the collection of laws, regulations, principles, policies, directives, and agreements enforced by the Philippines government and the environmentally related bodies to govern and regulate the human treatment of the environment. So, my task is to discuss the Act number 3572 and the Presidential Decree number 705. So, Act number 3572 is an act to prohibit the cutting of tindalo, angkol, or mulavi trees under certain conditions and penalize violations thereof, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the Philippines in legislator. So these tindalo, angkol, or mulavi trees are the wood that is the best materials for the high grade constructions, because these materials is used for cabinet making, railroads tie, shipbuilding, bridges, and high grade construction, because where the strength and durability are required of these materials. So in section 1, the cutting in the public forest of tendalo, angkol, or mulavi trees less than 60 centimeters in diameter measured at a height of 4 feet from the ground, breast height, is hereby prohibited. In section 2, any person, company, or corporation violating the provision of this act shall be punished by a fine of not more than 50 pesos or imprisonment for not more than 15 days, or both, and to pay, besides, 2 times the amount of the tax on the timber cut, provided that in the case of a company or corporation, the president or manager shall be directly responsible for the act of his employees or laborers if it is proven that the latter acted with his knowledge. Otherwise, the responsibility will extend only as far as fine is concerned. Provided further that all tendalo, angkol, or mulavi timber cut in violation of this act shall be forfeited to the government. So, any person, company, or corporation violating this provision of this act shall be punished by a fine of not more than 50 pesos or imprisonment for not more than 15 days. And provided this section that in case of company or corporation, the president or the manager, so ang dako-dako sa usa ka company or the corporation shall be directly responsible for the acts of his employees. So siya mooy manubag sa acts sa gibuhat sa iyahang or violation sa iyahang employees or laborers, proven that the latter acted with his knowledge, and provided further that all tendalo, angkol, or malawi timber cut in violation of this act shall be forfeited to the government. And Section 3, all acts and provision of law inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. And Section 4, this act shall take effect on its approved on November 26, 1929. Next is Presidential Decree number 705, revising Presidential Decree number 389, otherwise known as the Forestry Reform Code of the Philippines, whereas proper classification, management, and utilization of the lands of the public domain to maximize their productivity to meet the demands of our increasing population is urgently needed. Whereas to achieve the above purpose, it is necessary to reassess the multiple uses of forest land and resources before allowing any utilization thereof to optimize the benefits that can be derived therefrom. Whereas it is also imperative to place emphasis not only on the utilization thereof but more so on the protection, rehabilitation, and development of forest lands in order to ensure the continuity of their productive condition. Whereas the present laws and regulations governing forest lands are not responsive enough to support reoriented government programs, projects, and efforts on the proper classification and delimitation of the lands and the public domain, and the management, utilization, protection, rehabilitation, and development of forest lands. So Section 1 title of this code, this decree shall be known as the Revised Forestry Code of the Philippines. So Section 2, policies, the state hereby adopts the following policies. The multiple uses of forest land shall be oriented to the development and progress requirements of the country, the advancement of science and technology, and the public welfare. B. Land classification and survey shall be systematized and hastened. C. The establishment of wood processing plants shall be encouraged and rationalized. And D. The protection, development, and rehabilitation of forest lands shall be emphasized so as to ensure their continuity in productive condition. So these acts lay down the basic principle of forest management and conservation, makes provision for the administration of forestry of the forestry. So the survey and classification of lands for purposes of forestry and the use of forest resources. So organization and jurisdiction of the Bureau. Section 4, creation of and merger of all forestry agencies into the Bureau of Forest Development. So the Bureau of Forestry, the Reforestation Administration, the Southern Cebu Reforestation Development Project, and the Parks and Wildlife Office are merged into single agency to be known as the Bureau of Forest Development. So jurisdiction of Bureau, the Bureau shall have jurisdiction and authority over all forest land, grazing lands, and all forest reservation, including watershed reservation, presently administered by other government agencies or instrumentalists. It shall be responsible for the protection, development, management, generation, and reforestation of forest lands, the regulation of supervision of the operation of licenses, leases, and permits for the taking of use of the forest products therefrom, the occupancy of use therefore. So this acts provides for matters relating to use of forest resources, such as licenses, agreements, leases, and permits for purpose of utilize, exploits, occupy, possess, or conduct any forest activity. So this chapter or these acts also makes provision for special uses of forest resources such as grazing, wildlife and recreation, and for measuring of timber. So this part of this act prescribe criminal offenses including unlawful occupation or destruction of forest land and grazing lands. So that's all, and thank you.